Hi students, I am Bazi from Meslova Dizzy Classroom. Generally we visit different places, zoos, national parks or sanctuaries or any tourist spots in our state, in our both Telugu states and various places like Hyderabad, Vizag or Visakhapatnam, Vijayawada or newly constructed capital like Amaravati and various places of our Andhra Pradesh and also other places of the other states in our nation. Have you ever imagined or seen a penguin in a zoo or a polar bear or a seal in a zoo? What happens when you keep a fish out of water or a penguin in the zoo? Definitely they will not survive or they may die. The animals which developed certain features or conditions to adapt themselves in their respective surroundings, like fish in the water and polar bear in the polar regions. The presence of features or certain conditions or certain habits which helps an organism to live in different types of conditions or surroundings or environments is nothing but the adaptation. This is first observed by Charles Darwin when he was landed on one of the group of islands, that is Galapagos Islands, in the year 1835, and he observed lot of diversity in various types of organisms within the small region of that island. If you observe the birds like the woodpecker or kingfisher or hummingbird, if you see the structure of the beak is same, but they use in different ways for different purposes and in different manners they use. Exactly, Charles Darwin, when he landed on the islands, he remarkably observed the different types of observations in the finches. What is this finches? Finches are sparrow like birds. Our state bird also a finch, that is Palapitta. And in the same manner he observed different types of finches in the small region of that island. He amazed to see 13 finches which are differ in their beak structure and color of the feathers, and he amazed to see this diversity within the same species in the same region with a small limitation or boundary of the land. Some birds eat seeds, some are eat fruits, some eat only insects, but some eats almost all type of food material. Depends on intake of food material by birds, the structure of the beak is also changed. He finally concluded that the adaptation is something that an organism changed continuously in a particularly geographically separated areas. What is the small geographically separated areas? These are small units of conditions which we called as ecosystems. In this ecosystem, where the animals or organisms interact with each other and interact with nature as well as themselves, like the interaction with sun or air or water or soil, like natural conditions, and this interaction is very important in an ecosystem. This system has similar type of plants or animal species and also weather conditions. They have many systems on this planet earth, both on land as well as in water. Like some organisms live in the water, some are on land. In more complex way, in water, some lives in fresh water, some are in salt water. In salt water also, a marine life is present from the upper surface of the sea or ocean to the depth of the ocean. In different zones, the species are segregated in various zones. The life is very complex and this distributed in various places on this planet. Even if you see in land, from the plains to caves, or from the mountains to valleys, from the deserts to forest, from the polar regions to tundras, number of places are there, and this is very complex way in which animal adapt itself or organism adapt itself to sustain on this planet. Why the life is distributed, why we find differences in the same organisms present in different places on planet. Like us, if you see in humans, if you observe the Africans, Americans, Asians, Mongolians, Japanese, Australians, or Middle East, or Vikings, if you observe, almost all the human beings are seen very differently, who looked, talked, and acted much differently and behaved differently with each other. And this diversity we will see within human beings. Why we will not see in different organisms in different places? If you see in desert area, the desert area have acute shortage of water, and also with hot and dry climate. If you see, the rainy season is very less, and long hot seasons or dry seasons we will find in deserts. In desert area we find different types of plants like certain herbs or desert plants and shrubs and certain bushes and even trees we may see. In the same manner, in the animal species we find different types of rats, lizards, snakes, reptiles, and also birds like owls, hawks, and mammals like camels, foxes, and desert hares, different types of insects. All they discovered the way to escape from the harsh conditions or extreme conditions in the desert. The organism which takes rest at daytime and active at night time, those we called as nocturnals. And the organism which takes rest at night time and acted in daytime we called as diurnals. Human beings are diurnal generally. In nocturnals and diurnals they adapt themselves to prevent the competition, to overcome the extreme conditions in daytime, that is heat from the sand. Which animal is the ship of the desert? Almost all of us know that camel is the ship of the desert. Why? Its survival to the extreme conditions in the desert. How it survives and how it adapts itself. If you observe a camel, the legs are very long, the upper part of the body is away from the land, and it keeps the body from the extreme heat conditions. And the legs have the pads and which prevents the heat. It adapts itself to travel a long distance within the desert area. If you observe the eyelashes of a camel, they are very long, and even nostrils of camel close voluntarily, and it prevents the entering of sand particle into the respiratory tract of the camel. In the same way, it stores the fatty material, the food material, for a long sustenance of camel in desert area. After drinking water once, the camel live a long time and without drinking water, and its excrete urine very little, and its dung is very dry. Such an adaptation we find in camel. In the same manner, the kangaroo rat, it is one of the species, it adapts in the extreme conditions that it cannot drink the water throughout its life. It synthesizes the water from its food material. A little water is enough to survive on the desert environment. If you observe in desert, different types of snakes are there. A special snake, that is sidewinder adder snake. Sidewinder we call because it crawls in a side winding shape, and it crawls on sand with a speed to reach or to avoid the heat from the sand, and it also helps to grab the food immediately. This adaptation is very peculiar in this snake due to its side winding crawling system, helps to avoid heat from the desert sand, and also helps in the grabbing the food material. This sidewinder snake hide under the sand and also it grabbing its food material by hiding under sand, and it suddenly attacks on its prey, and also it sustain in this manner on the desert area. This is one of the amazing adaptation by a snake. In the same manner, if you see a golden mole, which is a very peculiar and we called as accidentally brilliant animal. It cannot see, it's completely blind, its eyes are completely covered by skin and fur. They swims through the sand. It seems to be built for a desert life. The sightless head acts a streamlined wedge. Its tiny body propels by powerful forelimbs and webbed back foot. Its sensitive ears can hear sounds of heartbeats of lizard or a termite. It's a brilliant adaptation by a golden mole. It's very peculiar adaptation. Such a harsh conditions, this adaptation is amazing. In desert area, we walk a mile without water, but we can't further. If you observe certain birds which are travel more than 15 miles without water, in search of water, they came to different types of water bodies in the desert area. After satisfying their thirst, they have to carry the water for their chicks. That bird is sand grouse. If you observe, it's an amazing, peculiar and marvelous adaptation in sand grouse which carry water for their chicks, because chicks cannot follow the mother and chicks cannot fly. But this bird carries water because they extra thanks to their breast feathers. The feathers are adapting such a way that they have the filaments which absorb water from the water body like a blotting paper, and it stores the water in their breast feathers and it carries to their child or chicks. The puppies are waiting there to drink water from the breast feathers of sand goose bird. It's a peculiar and such an amazing adaptation in the desert area. And this way the sand goose survive in deserts. In the same manner, if you see, the another one is fennec fox. The fennec fox, it is the smallest species of all the fox family. It has a long ears through which it loses heat from the open desert land. And almost all the heat which absorbed by the body is released from its ears. It is very peculiar and it adapts itself to avoid heat in the desert during daytime, and also it finds the food material under sand by keen observation as well as hearing ability of that fennec fox help to sustain on desert land to grab the food. In the same manner, if you observe the sand diving lizard, which is very different lizard species present in desert area. It holds its feet on air to cool down, to avoid temperature. One of or two of their feet is in air to cool down and to avoid temperature or heat from the sand. It's a marvelous adaptation in desert area. Like animals, different plants are also present in desert area, and these extreme conditions we called as xeric condition, and those plants which are present in this desert area we called as xerophytes. In desert area the plants grow very slowly because they don't have much rainfall, and they store water in their stem or leaves and undergoing various types of adaptations. The leaves may be absent, or it may reduce to spines, or it may be very small, and they modify into various types of other plant parts to avoid extreme hot conditions. Stumps are covered with a thick waxy layer which helps in retaining water inside the plant. Stem is green and it prepares food for the plant. The root system goes deep down into the soil for absorbing water. The plants like opuntia, cactus, and also different types of grasses and certain shrubs and bushes and even certain trees also found in desert area. The cactus adapt in this way. Leaves are reduced to spines. Stem is green and spongy. Roots are long and reach the deep down into the soil to absorb water. The spines protect them from hungry animals. You know, the baobab tree is one of the special tree and amazing tree present on the planet. Someone called it as upside down tree. Their branches resembles the root system and stem is very swollen. It stores water, and it is one of the special adaptation we found in baobab tree in desert areas. If you see the pebbles, that is living stones, they resembling like a stone but they are not stone, hence we called as pebbles or living stones. And if you observe in these pebbles, it has a slit in between which allow light into it to perform photosynthesis, and it protects from being eaten. Here you see the different collections of opuntia in which the leaves are modified or reduced to spines to avoid extreme heat conditions and evapotranspiration. The stem is in green in color and it performs photosynthesis to adapt in the desert conditions. Nowadays, people are using these desert plants as ornamental plants, and they use opuntia, cactus, pebbles, and also they gifted to their friends or families in special occasions. You know, this has become a very fashion today, and these plants are having ornamental values and commercial values nowadays. You know, this is one of the adaptation in desert area by plants and animals to those extreme conditions. In the same way, on land, different types of areas like polar regions, tundras, savannas, grasslands, mountains, forests, and various places are there in which animals adapt in different ways. If you see in polar regions, the polar ice caps of Arctic and Antarctic regions are very harsh places to live on this planet. You know, it is very difficult to sustain on those conditions. It is very icy conditions, and they don't have any type of seasons, and especially they have the long winter and a short summer, and most of the plants cannot grow on such a harsh conditions. Only most of the species are sustained on the ice caps are animals. If you observe in short summer seasons, certain plants are also grown in polar regions, especially the plants which have small reduced leaf size with waxy coated with low stomata, and also they have to adapt themselves that leaves are close together and flowers overlap each other. and to withstand stormy winds of ice. The plants like cranberries, blueberries, Arctic poppies, and saxifrages, etc., different types of plants we can find in those polar regions. By living in the edges of the ice caps, the animals mostly adapting to take food from the oceans or from the land, especially the fish or small animals. The south poles are mostly populated by penguins. Seabirds like albatross, petrels, and gulls may also visit there, and whales and seals thrive in the water of the coast. At North Pole, you might find polar bears as well as water-going mammals like seals, walruses, and whales. Their thick layer of fur and fat insulate and protect from the extreme cold condition, especially in walruses, whales, and penguins, and also the fur which is present on foxes and polar bears, which adapt in extreme cold conditions due to this fur and fat. In the same manner, we find in tundras. In tundras, the temperature is about 18 degrees Fahrenheit or 7 degrees centigrade. There are only two seasons here, a long winter and a short summer, or a long summer and a short winter. During the winter, the nights become longer and longer until the day comes. And this situation is reversed in summer. Beneath the thin layer of the soil, the ground is frozen. And in summer season, due to temperatures reaching up to 10 degrees centigrade, the ice become melting and mixing with soil, it forms into a permafrost. Only few nutrients are available to sustain for plants and animals in the tundras. There are no trees, only plant life consisting of certain grasses, mosses, and flowers. The animals like Arctic foxes, hares, snowy owls, musk ox, caribou, some of the animals present in tundras. These are different types of adaptations in both tundras and polar regions and desert. We will discuss and different types of adaptations and different types of extreme conditions in various types of ecosystems like mountain, grassland, savannas, lichens, and various mangroves, and also on land as well as water we will discuss and we will meet in next session. Okay students, bye bye.